Hey, my name is Anton Jackson, and welcome to the first review of the premiere of Season 3 of Better Call Saul. I'm going to just start talking about what I thought about the episode right off the bat, and we'll see how it goes. The first, and obviously, spoiler alert, the season premiere picked up in the same fashion as the previous two seasons, with the black and white flash forward to Jimmy's new life after Saul Goodman as Gene, the manager at Cinnabon. And it was actually kind of an interesting little storyline they had going there, when it was just him going through the daily monotony of every day in his new life. And he had just picked up with him eating lunch. And it was kind of interesting to see him just going through the boring monotony of life, but then seeing him confronted with a sort of almost a difficult moral situation, it seemed like, because here we have someone who is an ardent criminal and someone who I think truly enjoyed this kind of subversive underculture of being a criminal. And here, now, after escaping to Omaha, he's confronted with the dilemma of whether or not he turns in someone who I think he sees a lot of himself in, this kind of, younger guy who's shoplifting at a mall. And almost without hesitation, I think he's when the police officers approach him in the when he's just sitting there having lunch, it's just almost instinctual. The reaction is to him to, in the end of the day, cover his own skin, because he knows that if he is caught by the police, he's going to go to jail, or even worse, for the crimes he committed as Saul Goodman in Albuquerque. And when he finally sees the perp being handcuffed by the cops, and the cops tell him good job, I think it's kind of a tough situation for him to grasp. I think almost instinctually he really wants to help this guy, but he can't, because at the end of the day he wants to save his own skin. And I think it's when I first saw the first two intros to season 1 and season 2, I kind of, thinking back to Saul Goodman, I really thought of him as truly a type of person who, at the end of the day, would save his own skin no matter what. He's the type of guy who seems to would sell his mom and dad into slavery to save his own skin. Saul Goodman, not Jimmy McGill. But it's interesting because in season 3 we kind of see the Jimmy McGill character come out of Saul when he's Gene in Omaha. And you can really see that there's still some part of him there. I don't know if that part reemerged after his after his running away to Omaha, but I'm not sure, because if you really study the character of Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad, this is a completely different person from the person we were meeting in Better Call Saul. This Jimmy McGill character is completely different. I mean, if you go back to some of the situations which Saul was put in Breaking Bad, it's just someone who just seems to have almost no real compassion or remorse for his actions. I mean, I go back to the scene in, I believe it was season 4, when Hank is trying to pursue Walter, and this is after the shooting incident with the Salamanca cousins. You hear him say the quotation of, when Walt is worried about whether or not he's gonna go after Jesse for the murder of my God, his name is escaping me at the moment, of Gale Bedecker. Saul says the what on his rascal scooter, and this is someone with this much kind of disdain and just almost the callous and the cold-heartedness of someone who was just almost murdered by the drug cartel is a completely different person from the Jimmy McGill we knew in season 1 and season 2 of Better Call Saul. And to tell you the truth, it's almost sad when you think about it. When you think about the character development from Jimmy McGill to Saul Goodman, it seems like it's going to be quite a sad tale to unfold when you think about the close relationships Jimmy had in Better Call Saul with Kim and with his brother, and just all the other relationships he had. By the time we meet him in season, I think it was 2 or 3, I think it was season 3 of Better Call Saul, when we finally meet him when Brandon is arrested, Badger is arrested, this is a completely different character. So it's going to be really interesting to see this development throughout the rest of this season. And so yeah, when the flash forward intro is ended. We pick off right where this season left off. It reminds us that Chuck secretly recorded Jimmy confessing to him changing the numbers of the address on the Mesa Verde account, which Chuck managed to garner through his persuasion of the Mesa Verde clients. And then Jimmy managed to get back based on the kind of plot that he did to get the clients back on Kim's behalf. And that's where the episode picked off. Not much really went on in the beginning. It kind of was just a reminder of what was to come. What I did find kind of interesting was how, Jimmy kind of thought this, just blew over again. He kind of confessed, but it's no big deal because no one's going to know. And he just tries to, I just kind of continue the relationship with Chuck. And it was kind of an interesting back and forth they had, reminiscing about their childhood and about the book, which Chuck used to read Jimmy. But at the end of the day, Chuck reminded Jimmy that, he's going to pay for what he did. Chuck really, as we know, takes the law seriously, and it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, from the promos, we can kind of tell and presume that that Jimmy is going to go to jail from the promos, but we'll see how this unfolds. We'll see how the plot unfolds with Chuck and Jimmy. Going down the line, we saw that Chuck disclosed the tape to Howard as well, and again, through the legal loopholes, thought this really wasn't admissible in court. So it'll be interesting to see how this plot unfolds. And additionally, there's a flashback to when Mike was about to murder Tio Salamanca, Hector Salamanca, and we'll see, and just kind of reminded us that whole plot. That was kind of a long, drawn-out plot as well in the whole episode. Him trying to figure out how the tracking device got in his car, to figure out who knew where he was going and who he was trying to kill. It was kind of a long, kind of slogged along the plot a little bit for that, but I thought it was pretty well done. It kept me intrigued. Mike trying to figure out who and how the tracking device was put on his car. The one big problem I have with Better Call Saul as opposed to Breaking Bad is that we know eventually what's going to happen. We know that Jimmy McGill is going to turn to Better Call Saul, and all these relationships he has are going to falter and go by the wayside. The only thing we don't know is how it's going to happen. So sadly, we don't. I personally, speaking for myself, don't have as much, I guess, excitement and intrigue of where this character is going to go and where these characters are going, because we know where they're going. But I am curious to see how the plot unfolds. It is going to be interesting. I'm really excited and looking forward to this season. And we'll see what happens. So those are basically the two main plots, kind of Saul's plot. Sorry, I keep making that mistake. Jimmy's plot, not Saul Goodman yet, and Mike's plot. And from the promos I've seen for the next episode, it looks like the plots are going to intermingle. And also, eventually, we'll see. They're keeping us waiting for us to see Gustavo Fring come back into the mix here in Better Call Saul. So, all in all, I thought the episode was pretty good. Like I said, it's you don't have as much suspense as you do in Breaking Bad, because you really didn't know what's going to happen to those characters in Breaking Bad. And in Better Call Saul, we know where these characters are eventually going to end up. But still, I find the plot very intriguing. I thought it was well directed. I think Vince Gilligan directed this first episode. Thought it was well written. I'm really excited and looking forward to the rest of the season. And that's all I really have to say. I'm going to be reviewing the episode right after it airs every week. All 10 episodes, I believe. And I'm really interested in this and excited to do that. So again, my name is Anton Jackson, and I hope you enjoyed my review. Peace out, mofos.